But we really, we are so fortunate because our directors are unbelievable supporters of the community. People who give and give and give, who understand what it's like to own a business and run a business in this community and be responsible for their corporate family. And so, they're helping us be responsible for our corporate family. So that's, it's servant leadership in this community, and we all do I think a really good job on the corporate side of supporting our community, and South Atlantic wants to be no exception to that either, both from a product standpoint and who we're going to be in the community.
So oftentimes folks know you, Mary Jo, either from being in one of your classes or, of course, knowing you from your column in the Herald or knowing you from your dedicated service to Optimist Club and a multitude of other charities. I think right now on the sponsorship committee for the Heart Ball, coming up in mid to late February, which is very exciting. They've got some great sponsors for that event, including the Market Common right out here on the airbase, which is exciting. But, of course, for folks who want to learn about just commercial lending, some of the basics there, what are some things that folks need to think about if they're approaching a banker for a loan? I know our focus is on feeling fit and looking fabulous, but we got a few minutes. What are some of the things that someone who wants to get into business or someone who's already operating wants to expand, what are some of the basic things they need to be thinking about before they go in to see a banker like yourself?
Well, I think, one common misconception maybe that a lot of people who are starting a business have is that you go to a bank, borrow money, have a good idea, and start a business. You're a business owner, so you know that truthfully that's not the way the world works. The world works is you save, you have some working capital, borrow from friends or family, put together a good business plan, get your operation up and running, and so that your idea is moving a little bit. And I'm not saying you need to be a Fortune 500 company by any stretch of the imagination, but you have to put a little bit of yourself into it and a little bit of your resources into it, and then you come to the bank for expansion capital, for whatever it takes from that point on. I think we have a lot of people that'll come in our door and say, I have a great idea for a business and I need to borrow money. And and it's just like buying a house. Anybody that buys a house and wants 100% or more financing, again, that kind of tells you where the mortgage industry went and got in trouble and is backing down from. And the commercial banking industry is no different. We want you to have a piece of your soul in it with my soul, because I'm going to be invested in you, and I want you to believe in you as well. So that's an interesting challenge. Now, the Small Business Administration does a great job of helping people get those ideas to fruition, and helping with that startup working capital and helping with the business plans. And there's a ton of resources on SBA.gov for those types of startup businesses. On a business that's been in existence for a while and is ready to take the next step, it's just a matter of bringing financial information and sitting down and being able to kind of illuminate your vision and tell people, this is what I want to do, this is how I'm going to get there, and just have a good plan either in your head or on paper. So
that's very important for viewers to hear, and of course it's tough to hear, as you say, that stark reality when they come in with a great idea. But the great thing is groups like the Small Business Administration are supportive of banks coming in later. They want to help you get started so that a conventional bank, a community bank, or a big bank can step in to help out to carry you to the next level. So it's very important, as you say, to send folks to SBA.gov or other similar sites so they can try to get their idea down the road a little further.
Exactly.
That's wonderful. In the same way, oftentimes you highlighted putting together a column. You've got to, there's a lot of steps that have to take before you can actually begin typing. Either a friend giving you a great idea, or something in the class as you're cruising down the Alps there in the classroom, riding your bike in Paris or the Champs-Élysées or somewhere.
I mean, those cobblestone streets can be a killer.
I bet they can. I can't imagine. How do you cushion for that? I don't know how you do it.
Padded bike shorts.
That's right. That's right. But obviously, doing a column, to come up with those ideas, you've got to really think through a good bit to make sure you connect and you don't sound like you're all over the place, along with the 20 or 15 other folks that are writing every week in the Herald. You've got to really get your focus there.
Absolutely. Life is about having a plan. It's about having a plan with your fitness. It's about having a plan with your column or with your work or with your business. And the key there is to sit down and give things a little bit of thought before you just jump into them. With your fitness plan, if you don't have a direction of where I want to go. What's my goal going to be? Is it realistic? Can I accomplish it? I think the biggest thing people do is they start a fitness plan. They say, I'm going to lose 40 pounds. Well, your body may only want to lose 10 pounds and you may look great.
Right.
So you need to, kind of set goals that are realistic, set your plan that's realistic. I try and do that, writing the column or whatever I'm doing. If I'm writing a column, I don't write 6 in 1 week. I write, 1 a week or 2 a week to try and, keep my ideas fresh, keep things going, and make sure, there might be the next great idea out there. And I keep a file folder of all the things I've got, ideas that might turn into a column later on.
Great. Good
Same
thing.
with fitness. If I'm teaching a class, think about moves that you want to use or ideas that you want to have, and where could you fit that in, and then practice it, think through it, so that when it comes to the real time that you've got something that's cohesive and makes sense and flows. Life is that way. Life needs to be cohesive and flow. And so if you can't, if you can't find a way to get there, get a coach that'll help you, like the SBA or a fitness instructor or a business consultant. There's plenty of ways out there to get people to help you with that kind of thing.
Very good point, Mary Jo. And of course, for you, any favorite columns over the last 3 years as you think through? You've got so many practical ones. Any ones where someone said, I not only read it, but I actually took it to heart, where you were hearing that on a regular basis? You highlighted that folks will read it. They may not do it. Of course, if folks know me, it's a great thing as you think about just here. We could be doing some exercises.
Exactly.
Or if we were using our arms and propping up. There's so many practical tips that you've given in your columns that people may not even remind you that they're doing or tell you that they're actually doing. Is there any one or couple that they not only read but really acted upon?
Well, I'll tell you the one that really hit home the most for me, and that, I know that the Herald has a ton of readers because I hear from them all the time. But, I had a good friend who lost a child, and the column's name is 3 Men and a Dog. And he and 2 guys had been walking the neighborhood. I live on a circle, and they'd been walking the neighborhood every morning, and he was doing so great. And, when something like that happens, the first thing that you think is, this is going to derail his entire world.
Right.
This is a special person, and I knew this child, and very well known in the community. And I thought, oh my gosh, all this hard work, where's it going to go? Well, about 2 days after all the people had left and all the family was gone, and things were quiet in the neighborhood, there were 3 guys and 2 dogs out there walking, or 3 guys and a dog, I think, that day. They were out walking again, and it struck my heart. And he was one of the 3.
Yeah.
His friends picked him up, took him out, and said, no, we're gonna go do this. We're gonna do this every day. We're gonna support you. We're gonna be with you. Then the next day there were 4 guys and 2 dogs, and they've been walking every day ever since. I see them every morning. And just the fact that people in this community will pick you up in the worst time of your life, and will take you to that next place, and will get you there healthy in your mind, healthy in your heart, healthy in your body. That says everything about Myrtle Beach. And that's was probably the column I heard the most from people, but also the one that was the easiest to write because it was just such an amazing experience. So on the serious side, that's probably my favorite column that I've written. On the fun side, there's all kinds of fitness myths and things like that.
What's the biggest fitness myth you hear, Mary Jo? Is there one, or are there just so many? But what's one that sticks out of your mind?
Let me think about that. Oh, that you'll turn out to look like a bodybuilder if you lift weights.
Oh, won't I?
Not unless you stop eating anything except protein and lift weights 4 or 5 hours a day.
Oh, is that all?
Sorry, I hate to break it to you, and all the fellas out there are going to be very sad to hear this.
They are.
All the women are going,
on a Friday morning,
even if you tend to build muscle pretty easily, you are not going to look like a bodybuilder unless you act like a bodybuilder, which means you have to really be very focused, very targeted, and do nothing but focus on muscle building. The other thing is that you can be fit and just lift weights, and that's also a myth, because if you don't do some cardio fitness for your heart and your lungs and do some muscle mass building, you're not going to have overall fitness. You need to train everything, and you need to not do the same thing over and over and over again, because your body gets used to it, and then it doesn't build, it doesn't change.
Oh, yeah. Some of those guys, Mary Jo, on these magazine covers, the guys and gals, or particularly the guys, they just look inhuman.
They do, and it's a full-time job. You can't get
wearing
like
the little
that.
thongs. These guys looks like you could just touch them and pain. I mean, you know, like pop them or something. And
Exactly.
balloons.
Exactly.
That's real, though. Have you ever seen these guys or gotten near them up close, or even the women like that?
I have seen some folks that are not quite, you know, the Olympic training bodybuilders.
Right.
You know, and it's, I mean, it is truly a sport,
Yeah.
and it is something that they do full time. It's
Yeah.
not something that you and I are going to get to unless we aspire to it.
Right.
Now, you know, overall fitness and being, you know, ripped, so to say, you know, where
Right.
you've got, you know, a lot of striations and that, you can do and look really nice and, you know, without being, you know, blown up or too big. You know, and again, I guess it's all personal preference. I'm sure they look terrific
Absolutely.
to the judges and to,
Very definitely.
you know, to their fellow competitors.
Not
but
to take anything away from them.
exactly,
That's right.
but you know, for me, it's just a personal choice not to be quite that focused, because you know, life is about balance. I think we all have to have some balance, and if your world revolves around too much working out, there is such a thing as too much exercise.
Right.
There's such a thing as too much eating. There's such a thing as not enough of any of that. So you know, you have to balance work life. You have to balance workout life. You have to balance family and personal time.
I love it. Mary Jo, those are great words. Thanks so much for being with us this morning. I'm
Thank
sorry
you, Greg.
we've run out of time. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Senior Vice President of South Atlantic Bank and AFAA Certified Group Instructor, Mary Jo Rogers, coming up next. I loved Mary Jo sharing that off camera. Her favorite title, one of her favorite titles, 15 Ways to Leave Your Blubber. What a great title. Feeling fit, looking fabulous. You heard her talk about it. More than 150 of these that she's typed up and fired into our copy editor to get into the Herald every week. And, of course, the excitement of seeing what Mary Jo has done for so many groups in writing this column. You know, not only getting people to get physically fit, feeling fit, looking fabulous, but also the commitment she's made. Instead of taking money and putting it in her own pocket for doing that column, every quarter she takes all those dollars that she's generated from writing the column and donates them to different charities in town. Every quarter a different group. I won't even tell you the names of all the amazing groups, but there's so many folks that have benefited by her actually writing this column, not only from feeling fit and looking fabulous, looking better and partying their masses off, but also the excitement of making a difference every day. Mary Jo Rogers, check her out online at myrtlebeachherald.com. Stop by to see her at South Atlantic Bank. Pick up some donuts there if you want to pop on by on 21st Avenue, the corner of 21st and Grissom, or pop on by to see her at American Athletic Club. Mary Jo Rogers, feeling fit and looking fabulous.